Gentlemen, I was going to say ladies and gentlemen, but clearly. Thank you for coming to the Juju Group January workshop. Some of you might know we're organizing these workshops monthly. Last month we had a workshop hosted at Ice Malta about the Raspberry Pi. This month we have Reade from Canonical, who is going to talk about Juju, not Juju, to say it in Maltese, okay?
I was wondering, because they're both some kind of food.
Actually, Juju means magic, right?
Yes.
And that's the way they reserved some Juju into it. William's going to be basically talking about what Juju is and, you know, giving some small demos and stuff. Would also like to thank our sponsors who are 6 p.m, who helps the Malta user group with infrastructure, and obviously Ice Malta, who helps organize the events, promotes them, etc., etc. After William has finished his presentation, we can, network a bit. But also, I'd like to take just literally 1 minute of your time after William to tell you about, some Linux-related stuff that ICE is doing as well. Okay? So thank you very much, and William.
Thank you. So I saw that I was already being introduced when I came in. I actually have a very rough idea of what Juju is so far, so I can see the first one very, very quickly. My name's William Reade. I've been working on Juju or similar projects for the last 2.5 years. I was originally hired to work on Ensemble, which became Juju, and then got rewritten in the new language. And I'm now tech lead on the Go course. And Go is a fascinating language, which I urge you to look into, but it's not really what I'm talking about today. I'd be happy to contact you about it afterwards then.
Can you speak?
Oh, sorry, okay. So, I would be happy to talk about Go afterwards, but this is not really the focus. Juju, you've already had introduced very capably by Mr. Shuttleworth. So, what I'm really here to do is to try to point out to you how it can actively make your life better. And this will maybe involve some demos, maybe involve horrible failures, we shall see. That is the nature. But to explain how it's really going to make your life better, do you remember the bad old days? You needed some software, and so you had to download it and untar it and start entering things, and it would chug for like 12 hours, and then spit out some horrifying error message, and you go on, and a few days later you'd have running software. And apt was fantastic, other package managers. Magnificent technology compared to what it was. But we don't actually have that sort of power for the sort of things we're often trying to do today. I can see that any one of you might be walking along and then accosted by some random stranger asking you to deploy WordPress or OpenStack or Reade, many things, but all of these things are right. Okay, I need half a dozen machines potentially. I need to configure all of them to talk to the right bits, and honestly, it's a huge hassle. Therefore, Juju. Juju depends on the idea of calling groups of machines working together, if you like, units of a service. So if they're all running the same software, they're all running the same service, and a group of services that you're managing as one that may or may not be connected is called an environment. That is the sort of, we don't at the moment have any concept of cross-environment things. You can't build clusters that span clouds, for example. And you define your services, you connect your services together, and the way you connect your services together is by understanding what charms they are running. The charm is the encapsulation of the software that you're going to do. The examples often seem to help people. All of those things are perfectly valid to Juju services. We actually have charms, I think, for all of them. Even the But it's going to be much, much easier, I think, if I actually show you what I'm doing. So, this here is environment.yaml. It's the basic configuration file for Juju, and in here we have a list of cloud providers, basically. Labeled environments, they're all named, and they all have various types. 4 of them are just presets for various EC2 environments, regions rather. I've got an HP Cloud one, which is an OpenStack one, and I've got a local provider as well. And all of these are configured and more or less ready to use. So, I run Juju switch to see what environment I'm in, and I know for sure I don't have any machines running in the US at the moment, so I'm going to start off by bootstrapping. Please ignore the upload tools, it's because I'm running a dev version. You wouldn't have to worry about that in real life. And this is going to take forever. So what you would probably rather see is one that I already set up. Let's hope this will work. So, here is an environment I set up this morning. It's running, as you can see, 4 machines in total, 4 actual instances of the provider, and it's running various services. It's running HA proxy here, the Juju GUI, which we'll see in a moment, Memcached, MySQL, and WordPress. And they're all connected together. You can figure out how they're all connected together by reading this stuff. There's actually useful information in here, but it's not the most pleasing way to come to it to begin with. For that, you need to look here. And of course, it is messed up because it used to have a different resolution. This is the visual representation of that same information you had before. So we have a WordPress charm which is connected to a MySQL charm and Memcached, and there's HA proxy, and if you see the little green blob there, that's indicating that HA proxy has an address on the public internet, as does the Juju GUI charm, which we are currently talking to. Has this been clear so far? If there are any questions, please stop me, because I don't want to leave anyone confused when they might not need to be. No? Okay. So if we look down here, we might see, right, so we've got a little bit of progress out of Bootstrap. We ran on EC2 against the US one. We started an instance, we installed a tiny bit of stuff on it, and then most of the rest to SSH it. We've got there, and we're now doing the later configuration necessary to actually start running a Juju environment based on this instance. I was hoping that would be a little bit better. So this environment here that I switched to, the HP Cloud one, this state is reflected in the dashboard for the HP Cloud service that I'm running there. It's not terribly exciting information. You can at least see that the instance names we've given do match quite nicely with these in the status. And this is a very pretty picture. But it's not really clear whether this is anything more than a pretty picture. So we're going to take a look at the HA proxy interface. The inspector tells us we're running a single unit. We can look here. And this has a public IP address that's exposed. It's open port 80. And here indeed is the WordPress service behind HA proxy and running with MySQL and Memcached to do all its shininess. If you look at WordPress, it's only running a single unit. We can let's pretend we've just said something terribly, terribly popular. Sorry.
When you say unit, you mean number of WordPress sites in this case?
I mean number of instances of the running software. Okay. So you remember I mentioned charms encapsulate everything? When you've got a service running 10 units, it's downloaded the charm to 10 different places and it's running the software from the charm in each of those places.
So basically it's like cloud deployment from WordPress on multiple servers.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So, I think it would be nice, just in case I manage to say something terribly popular on Reddit, to have a few more WordPresses running here. So, if you can see what I'm doing up here, I'm simply saying I want 3 units instead of 1. And you get a brief notification here that a third of our units are okay and 2 of them are coming. Let's have a little
Quick question. Can Juju be used, let's say, for instance, you have a bare metal hardware that you want to use to deploy, or is it strictly just for?
So absolutely it can. What you've seen so far is the Juju GUI running against the HP cloud, and chugging away in the background we have an environment bootstrapping on EC2. You can also do Azure, you can do private OpenStack clouds, and you can do Mass, which is another Canonical project. It's called Metal as a Service. It's about actually provisioning hardware. So you throw it at a few racks and it turns on all the servers, figures out their hardware, registers them, lists them, and then you've got a ready-made cloud, essentially. And Juju it fits very nicely for deploying on top of that. We are using it to deploy some excitingly big OpenStack clusters in a few places. Did I answer your question?
More or less, because I'd be interested, for instance, you potentially using Juju, for instance, for some PPSs that I have. I don't know if that could be done.
So it can be done as well. We have the notion of manual provisioning. This is when you don't have the code implemented to talk to a particular provider's API. But what you do have is a bunch of machines to which you can get SSH access. And it's almost as simple. From the command line, it's Juju add machine, SSH : user at host. And if you can do that, then you'll log in, set it up, register it, figure out the hardware, and start the right tools running and ready to receive units. Which is really handy. It's a really nice way to try out Juju on different providers, DigitalOcean, whoever happens to catch a latency, or even just your own data center. So, what was I looking for? I think I was looking at WordPress and seeing we do have 2 units in existence, but they're not there yet. And similarly, we have 2 machines that are also not there yet. That's basically. Or I can click up here. No, they're still not finished.
So what they're doing right now is the applicating each other and getting it over there.
So what I have been trying to talk, what's just been happening while I was talking was 2 new machines were provisioned from the cloud provider. They started up with Cloud Init, they did a bunch of stuff like upgrade and update and so on. And then they started running a Juju machine agent which talks back to the first machine I bootstrapped and says, hey, what do I do? And from the client side, I'm doing things like saying, hey, I'd really like you to memcached on this particular machine, and the magic happens in the middle. So now that we've got actual machine agents running on these new machines, down here we will probably start to see the WordPress units showing up very soon.
Now let's say what happens is say you have your predecessor on Ubuntu 12.04 and you need to upgrade to 14.04. How does that work?
The short answer is it depends, and the long answer is maybe a little bit of a derail. At the moment, almost all the charms that we have in existence are more precise, most recent LTS. There is an active effort going on to get all those charms tested on Trusty so that we can make the latest LTS the default across the board. But you can choose to deploy what you want to A-port. Generally speaking, everything's been on precise. There was at least one charm that spent some time on contour because it depended on thermal features that weren't yet available backwards to precise. So you're not restricted to a single series for your deployments. Yes.
Is it possible to do something similar to what you were saying right now? You have a parallel cluster. You clone the particular one you have right now, which is for version 12. You make a new one for 14, and you wire it in a JPROC, so it's possible. So you can kind of A/B test if everything is still running solid on the new stack.
So yes, you would probably want some manual HA proxy fiddling and to bring up separate services running against the same data. We don't have any automated stuff for handling series upgrades.
To do migrations.
Yes.
So in that case, you would kind of do a separate cluster, model it over 14, and then you start switching HA proxy manually from 12 to 14.
I would expect that, yes. That seems like the most.
Oh.
So, we see this most recent one has both started, and yes, thankfully the GUI has indeed shown us. Now, WordPress is running 3 out of 3 units. Down here, I was bootstrapping EC2. The joys of live typing. So, this was the environment I bootstrapped earlier. Did you see what I was doing there with the switch? The list of environments I have by switch context, and it's helpful. So this here, I'm going to start off. At the moment, the only way I can talk to this is via the CLI. But the Juju GUI that you saw earlier is just a charm. So I can Juju deploy GUI, and then because I don't want to spend an enormous amount of money on this, I can ask it to be placed on a machine with ID 0, first one we created that's already there in the environment, the bootstrap thing. And what I'm also going to want to do is tell it to open the firewall so that we can talk to it on its public address on the internet. Sorry to keep you waiting, I expected that to be working as well. So, in the meantime, we have this up here. We have the WordPress that we added 2 units to, and I showed you just now adding Juju GUI to machine 0. We can go and add a couple of units. Memcached to the machines that WordPress is running on. United States to be right. WordPress nodes, we have machine 0 5 and 6. 5 and 6. In the meantime, we can actually introspect. So, you will hopefully observe that as we hit this again and again, there is no apparent change in the service. If anyone would like, incidentally, to log in and start writing blog posts and so on so they can verify for themselves that it really works, they should go ahead. The IP is up there, and the name is weak, the password is weak. Lock yourself out. So, what you hopefully saw? Oh. Okay, so an exciting thing has happened. Something has gone wrong while books were up. This didn't happen last time. But we can see what the problems are. To begin with, the easiest thing to do is just say, here, try and run them again. Because transient errors do happen. It's a shame, and it sucks, but they do. And we can sit there, listen and retry. But one of them so we have these boxes. I have been telling you that they have some magic attached, and you have seen something that could well be them interacting in a useful way together. What actually is a charm? A charm is, at heart, it's just a directory with a few special files in it, and they define what it is to Juju. There's a little bit of metadata, there's some optional configuration, which you'll probably see some of in a moment, and then there are the hooks. And hooks are the critically important bit. When you run a Juju unit agent, it keeps permanent track of the state of the rest of the system, including all the other units it has a reason to know about, i.e. those it's in a relation with. So units of MySQL know all about the units of WordPress that are connected to them, and similarly the units of WordPress know about MySQL, they know about Memcache, they know about HAProxy. As values attached to particular things change, Juju runs particular hooks informing the charm of that fact. And the charm is at each point responsible for reconfiguring its deployed software to best match the state of the world communicated by the list of hooks.
And the language for a charm can be really anything.
The language can be anything, as long as it's an executable file, that is fine by us. So you definitely do get people doing things like writing charms in JavaScript. You get a lot of people writing charms in Bash, because it's everywhere. You get an awful lot of people writing 2 lines of Bash to install the language they like, and then writing all their hooks in the language they like. But yes, the fact that it's language agnostic, I think, is tremendously powerful. It minimizes the burden to adopting it. It's actually remarkably easy to take your existing scripts and slap them in the hooks that look about right, and iterate from there. So, this whole thing is really covered by the language interfaces. So the interface for talking to them is perhaps not the most elegant via environment variables and custom tools that hook back in, but it has the enormous advantage that nothing does not implement the ability to talk to it.
If you're trying to deploy something as an application, so let's say WordPress is an application, right? So it's a set of PHP scripts which are contained inside the charm.
Yeah.
Is it possible to have some form of automation that you can, like, push a new version of WordPress that has been update on that, or you have something which is custom, let's say a Java application or a Ruby application, and you would like to deploy it.
So there are
What hooks
certain...
would you use kind of to interact?
So for that, the standard mechanism at the moment would be to put a field in the charm's configuration. So when you deploy a charm into a service, it gets its own copy of the configuration. And if you have a configuration describing, say, a source URL, several charms have the ability to check out from multiple source control systems.
So in a Java stack, for example, you put in the URL of where to get it from a repository, and it would download WAR file, for example, and deploy it.
Very likely. Absolutely.
Something like that. Does it
Yes,
happen?
absolutely. Of course, this is another way in which it is pleasingly agnostic. While there are plenty of things that you can and should apt-get install, some things really don't play nicely with packaging. There are horrifying Java monstrosities that are not packaged for Ubuntu, and it really is a matter of throw this huge pile of files into a directory. And this is not nice, but Juju does not prevent you from doing this. We don't have firm opinions on the right way to deploy software. That depends on the software. There's no model that we can safely force everybody else to follow. So, I've mentioned charms. I think I should probably show you some charms. Resist the temptation to try to debug that. So, this is a really, really simple charm. A colleague of mine wrote it a long, long time ago. It was like, hey, we can deploy Minecraft with WordPress. With WordPress and Juju. And it was really cool. But I realised last night that it is woefully out of date and it deploys Minecraft version 1.52 or something. So I forked it and dropped it in here. And it's kind of useful because it's a very, very simple charm. This is the configuration that we've described. It's completely custom to the charm, and they are, as you can see, all completely specific to how we want Minecraft to be deployed. There is not something very interesting. There is also the metadata.yaml, which is, if anything, even simpler here. This is almost a degenerate charm in that it doesn't consume any other relations and it only provides one, and I don't think there are any files for it. So far as I'm aware, nobody has yet written a Minecraft bot charm that could sensibly use server details for Minecraft. But you could. And here we have, again, a terrifyingly simple charm. This doesn't have any of the relation stuff. This is the very bare bones of it. What will happen when you run this charm is the install hook will run, the config change hook will run, the start hook will run. After that, basically nothing will happen, apart from the occasional config change or charm upgrade charm. Eventually the stop hook will be called and it will be shut down. It's not doing any reacting to anything else. It's the simple and dumb version. And they don't need to be complex. Install is probably the most complicated of these. So this one, it's quite clear there's no real harm to just writing the whole thing in bash. And it does, or at least should work. Let's verify that. What I haven't yet done, show you the GUI. this is bad. This is because I left the configuration empty and I didn't put a proper service in. You can put a proper service in and serve immediately. As it is, we end up with this, and I have sort of
The GUI is going to be under SSL.
the GUI is actually over WebSockets in the end, but it's HTTPS to begin with, yeah. So, you notice the very, very anemic configuration files, which are generally great. These are not always so great in all circumstances. What happened there, I deployed the Juju GUI, I had to log into it. I never configured a password, so I had to look into one of the cache files in the environment to know what the password was. When I'm connecting the CLI, I just read that file automatically and no one knows, but this is what we have to do to get in there. And
now,
here,
now that you're logged in, could you from there, for instance, configure a password for the GUI, or you have to do that more?
so the user management stuff we don't currently expose an API for. So the moment Juju environments are single user and that's it. Work on this is actively ongoing, but for now you need to be good friends with whoever you let into your environment. So Minecraft is running there.
There's security clause in Juju. You're saying you have to be good friends.
So the current model is not, I think, unreasonable. The problem is that for multiple people to use an environment, they need to share a set of credentials. That is a problem, but the issue, I believe, is more that we have a sensible user model. You just have not pushed it close enough to the boundaries of the system to let people interact with it usefully.
Basically, it's one admin that can maintain it.
At the moment, yes, certainly. It is meant to be easy to understand. It takes a lot of the burden off the amount you need to know about the services you're employing. You can't get away with zero, for sure. And you need some degree of knowledge of Juju to interpret what it's doing, but I think it is rapidly as I'm saying.
This is for the GUI or for the CLI?
So the GUI and CLI are both great in different contexts. I am much more naturally used to using the CLI.
Same for the single user, for the single admin.
Yes, it's a single set of users.
Even for the CLI.
The CLI is logging in as user admin with the same password as the GUI logs in as user admin.
And if I may ask,
Please.
look at the technical, you have the feature left. So those are basically pre-installed charms that are...
So these are charms that exist in the charm store.
So basically for me, like if I want to deploy medium, okay, just click onto it and try it in.
Yep. We have a little look at it. I don't think I need any special constraints. Let's just go. Yes. Right. So we have media wiki service deploying, and actually it would be a good idea to go to the database. That little thing popping up was sort of two plausible relations between those two services.
You might have a master database and slave.
The MySQL stuff is indeed set up such that if you want a master-slave configuration, you do it as two separate services, and you run a special relation between them. We really, really like it when charms are smart enough to figure out the cluster they're in and so on themselves, but that's a much harder task. So.
Which charms are clustered away right now? Database, for instance.
So, this is...
Mongo,
So, Mongo certainly has replica sets. I'm not sure whether it has sharding. Postgres, I couldn't say for sure. No, I will not say that we have active on Postgres. I know someone who's looking into it, but I'm up to date on.
It's exposed in the Juju API, so I can just add instances from there.
So, in effect, what happens is Juju will not restrict you there. If you try to add more units to the service than the charm can actually handle, then you're likely to start seeing errors of some sort. Hopefully the charm will make them nice errors and easy to recover.
But they can be exposed in the chart, so that then you can start adding instances, for example, of a particular. Similar to,
sorry, would you restate?
let's say we had a charm for WordPress before, and we started adding the amount of instances
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
In reality, then the kickoff requires to wire them across. In the case of a database, for example, you would want to handle the replication
Yes.
underneath, which is transparent, that from one machine, for example, you use putting it on two, and then whoever was talking to that database is wired to the both of them with a failover address. And
Absolutely. So, in general, we expect the charms to solve that as appropriate for the service they're deploying and the constraints on what you're actually trying to solve with that particular charm. So, what I'd love to see is for there to be one charm for a given piece of software and to expose enough configuration that smart people can use it for whatever it is. There have been a couple of cases in the past where people have tried different charms for the same software, so that there's explicitly the master and the slave stuff. I would say that doesn't tend to work so well. It's sometimes complicated setting up things like high availability when you have this quite constrained view of the system, but it is generally speaking possible.
Does Juju add any significant overhead to
So the Juju
if you were to install MySQL and
So Juju is
alone as opposed to as charm?
So Juju itself is very unlikely to be the source of your performance problems. The main Bootstrap node, the API server, will definitely feel more load than anything else because it's also only a database. But actually the Juju databases are really rather small, even for really rather large deployments. And we have not found that to be the problem thus far. Some of the scaling problems we have encountered are things like too much downtime calculating when you've got a whole bunch of things connecting over SSL at the same time. That was a little while ago. I'm not sure what our current most pressing scaling problem is. For a few years. So, charms. So Minecraft hooks are very simple ones. The WordPress hooks, though, are a little bit more complicated.
I'm very surprised because WordPress setting it up manually seems very easy.
Well, so I just catted the metadata file, and you'll notice that this one is rather more complicated than Minecraft one was. Down below, we've got it mentioning three categories of relations. We've got requires, which are things that can or maybe must make use of. In particular, it does require a database. It could use NFS, and it could use Memcache. At the moment, we are using Memcache. We're not using the NFS interface. We are providing the website interface to HA proxy.
So if I'm understanding correctly right now, for example, the child that was recently installed. It's not exposed like WordPress.
That is not currently exposed. So I don't. Okay, so here it is.
It's exposed to HA proxy now.
It's not. No, WordPress is related to HA proxy directly. You see here. You can't see here. Okay, so do you see there? There is a tag on the line between WordPress and HA proxy. That is naming the interfaces of the relations that are in play. If we look here, these 5 relations, we have their names are DB, NFS, cache, website, and load balancer. And the sort of data they send, the sort of data they communicate, is described by the interface here. So an interface is a very, very ad hoc specification. 2 charms simply need to declare the same sequence of bytes, and Juju will try to do that. This has been in practice much less of a problem than you might fear. Community pressure seems to work fairly well to keep people's ideas separate. But I'm not entirely sure it's perfect. It's definitely an area we have.
I'd like to concept of interfaces. Is there an interface for example, syslog and for logging or for naming
yes.
when you set up a machine?
So,
you want to kind of keep tabs of everything.
So yes, absolutely. There is another thing which I wasn't going to hit on this talk really, really quickly. There is a concept of a subordinate service. A subordinate service, you create it and no units actually get added at that time, but you add relations to other services, and then units of your subordinate get deployed alongside every unit of the principal service that they're bound to. And so you can end up with a whole bunch of syslog forwarder charms talking to a single instance of something that consumes them. There are Nagios charms and Unin, is it?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I'm looking at. So you kind of auto-wire them.
We have charms for all of those things. Yes, NRP in particular, I think they're a little bit inelegantly expressed, but that's really a matter of dragging a few more lines than you might hope you had to do.
Would it make sense to also make them maybe extend them from an interface point of view? Or is that a static spec?
So,
by
extending interfaces
and to
is...
create a new interface?
It's an interesting idea. We don't have anything formal on that. People have come up with their own solutions to this. What an interface really defines, when you actually look at the details, is a protocol. And so units on either side can send messages back and forth to one another. And so there is a fair amount of flexibility in there if you need it. Where, generally speaking, people are happiest when they find ways not to do it. That makes sense.
So, let's say I want to expose or have media wiki using HAProxy, I just create a relation and the system will automatically update itself accordingly.
So this particular HA proxy I would prefer not to. I'm just going to expose this media wiki for now and hope that it works. Let's see if that works. That looks pretty healthy. Media wiki. Seriously, zero's media wiki. Drag, drop, okay. It makes me really happy.
And this one will assign an IP address or
so the IP address in this case is automatically assigned by the cloud. All your HB instances get a public basic
Now,
address.
is it possible, for instance, you want to use one instance and install multiple services on that same instance, or For example,
It is possible, but that gets harder and harder and into the realms of specific configuration of the load balance for reverse proxy you're using. There's room for improvement, but also people seem to have converged on a set of solutions they are content with there. And I'm afraid I spend much more of my time trying to figure out how to make Juju deploy things than actually deploying them myself. So I don't trust myself to get squid reverse proxy configuration right first go. So we have a wiki as well, and if anyone wants to visit that on their phone and verify that it really is still there, they should feel more than free to. No.
Can we just load the WordPress site?
Sorry?
Ta-da.
The WordPress site is, there we are, 15.185.
Can I try refresh that?
Oh, yes. Hey! Nice. Cool. And so it is somewhat pleasing to note, incidentally, that we do have WordPress in a bit of a tizzy here. All the units are red because something or other went wrong while we were going into manufacturing. So they are currently in a frozen state from Juju's perspective. They're not going to run any more hooks until someone's come and had a look and told them what's right or wrong.
Could it be because WordPress has been configured to use memcache, but PHP doesn't have memcache module?
So hopefully not.
Because when I went to the admin,
when you install a WordPress service, you're not just installing WordPress, you're installing a couple of other things like, say, Nginx,
okay.
or crazy mod PHP things, Apache and so on. You're installing enough to make a unit of the service run on the machine. And this is not necessarily just that sort of that. But what happened, given the failures in Juju, was that it treated them as manageable failures. It hasn't told the users to stop or anything. HA proxy is still quite happily following requests to a WordPress thing that is still working. Probably.
no?
I bet the uploads only made it to one of the... Right, so...
It worked on one of
need
them.
to be a little bit more careful about. That's almost certainly what the NFS relation is for.
Exactly sure it's right.
Yeah, absolutely. But I didn't think set that up. Makes sense, silly. So it
We could figure it out that then migrate the current file store to the NFS point then?
I have literally no idea. I haven't heard that bit of the job. Juju doesn't have any built-in concept of storage except for those treatments. What did I do? I've got these two environments. I've got this one in the broken WordPress, so I don't want to get too much into it. Well, I do have this one with a name to it, so let's see whether I can make this work. Okay, so that there was closed. I think I'm installing it in Ireland. Yeah, I think so. I guess.
Aren't you going to have issues running it with Java 7 and JDK 0? Because I saw on the hook
It worked last time I tried. But remember, I'm just running the Minecraft client, and I would hope that the JDK version from client to server was not a complete killer. But now I'm hoping this will get the Here we are, we have an actual address. So let's copy the link. sorry, it's a moment. Okay, I'm going to pretend that it's just taking a while to wake up. Sorry.
480 and 448 with the Minecraft server.
But aren't you looking at you're looking at the Juju GUI here?
I am looking at Juju GUI. That would explain an awful lot about why Minecraft is not able to make a connection to that server. Right. Thank you very much. Do you know? It worked. So I've actually burned through the other demos and sketched a couple of slides there. I gave you the really high-level version of the structure of the charm. What you can expect to be doing, fundamentally, is to find a little bit of metadata and configuration, and then you write your hooks. All the details of exactly what hooks run, when, and where we have documented pretty well, I think. We are always in #Juju on Freenode, and we love to have new people come and to be able to help. You do have a few tools to begin with. We've got the global debug log, which I started off going on one environment here. This is telling us quite a lot about everything we've been doing.
So if something goes wrong, this is where you'd look to see what went wrong, basically.
Absolutely. So you can, so you can keep a permanent look at you can keep a permanent eye on the environment with the debug log. You can tweak the logging config to some degree. I think I set up that particular incantation earlier because it's the data I care about and not the data I don't care about. There is also a feature called debug hooks, which actually, having this broken, we're in a great position to try out. So,
as well, after this, could you discuss about being able to deploy Juju charms to the local provider?
certainly. So, in the GUI, we had a little bit of ability to respond to a failure. You can retry a hook, or you can say resolved, which indicates that you really did SSH into the instance and fix everything, and Juju should assume that everything's fine. Sometimes this isn't enough. So, with Juju debug hooks, I log in with a screening session, and then when something happens to cause a hook to fire on the unit, for example, So here we are. You'll notice that I actually have two tabs now. I'm now in one called Cache Relation Change, and I'm inside the hook directory. I have access to all the hooks that I can run if I want to. So if I do, say, /change and run it to see what happens. Latest version already installed. This just looks like a case in which the charm is rubbish and drain. It's not entirely clear what I can do to fix this one. I should digress and say that we are making enormous progress in integration tests for the charm ecosystem. But it is mind-boggling how many possible combinations you actually have, especially given the looseness of interface definitions. So we certainly don't have 100% coverage, and things like this do sometimes happen.
This is the public charm, right? This is what is currently in the community repository.
Yes, yes.
Let's say I would want to fix something or fork it off, or maybe do something totally different. What is the process?
So, there are a few different tools around it. At heart, the process is a branch on Launchpad that currently has the charm you want to modify. And then you can publish that to the charm store and use it. It'll be under your own name as a namespace, your own Launchpad name. At the moment, we're quite tightly tied to Launchpad branches.
Launchpad would then be a front end for, I guess, Git or Mercury or something?
Well, Launchpad really is only a front end for Bazaar at the moment.
Oh yeah, that's what
honestly, I rather like Bazaar, but then I would say that, and lots of people really like it. So, yes, it's absolutely possible to do that in terms of Git. It is just a matter of having to go through Launchpad publishing it.
So you open a Launchpad account, you fork off maybe the project that you're interested in.
Yeah.
Then you check it out in a Bazaar branch locally, and you use it like the Minecraft local charm that you had, and you test it out and see what you do.
Exactly. And then, for example, what we do have here, so what we could do, just for fun, because we do have a local WordPress which is a copy. Normally, if I was, say, Juju upgrade charm WordPress, it wouldn't do anything because we just deployed the latest version. What I can do is specify that, and that would normally look in the original repository. It looks in the charm store with the no latest WordPress that's done. What I should be able to do, I think, get a little bit around by doing this with multiple branches. Upgrade charm for WordPress using
So when you say local WordPress, that would be is that
So the original WordPress was, that looks like my WordPress. Nice. So, if we look in here, you will see WordPress, the service, currently claiming that we don't know that this one is. Oh, it's not going to work anyway. We would not normally upgrade units that were in an error state. But sometimes the error state is intimately bound up with the version of the charm you have, and so you do need an opportunity to slip the files from the new one in, and then restart management and see whether it sends something. These things probably aren't going to come back. WordPress ones, or at least I'm not going to make you watch them. Try to bring it back. John, you expressed an interest in the local provider. Okay, so I have the local provider set up. If you remember, this was my configuration file which defines basically. Okay, it doesn't define everything. The reason it's so nice and compact is because I've got a lot of credentials just stuck into environment variables that we're picking up automatically. This has the enormous advantage that I can show you my configuration file and not have to rip off my API claim. So there's a bit more information, but really not actually very much to success. So when do I switch? So we are switched to here. We do a Juju bootstrap. And in this one, I'm sorry to say, you look bored for a while because there's a certain amount of work to do. Here, okay. You do at least look back. So, what the local provider does is a not quite perfect match with what the rest of Juju does. The local provider runs the machine agent, which runs the state server and API server database and so on, directly on your machine, so not containerized. But any machines it deploys actually end up just being LXC containers.
So that's a good way to develop and deploy charms.
It is absolutely a good way to develop and deploy because they will run exactly the same interactions. The network will probably be more reliable locally, but then you're going to be rather more resource-starved locally as well. It's not perfect, but it's a really, really good way of testing stuff out and not having to pay 15 cents for your 5 instances, for 3 instances for an hour each, as it were, every time it starts up and finding not quite right. That's it fast. Okay, so let's try deploying Minecraft locally.
It's still working. You can just Juju deploy Minecraft since you're already.
So if I did Juju deploy Minecraft, I don't want to be too word of God here because this behaviour is slated to change. But essentially, when you say Minecraft, there's a configuration setting called default series, which currently defaults to precise. So we expand Minecraft into cs:/Minecraft, and then we go and ask the chance for what the latest child revision of that base URL is. And we assume the charm store by default. So if we just said deploy Minecraft, we would get the charm store one. Specifying the local repository was enough to make it clear.
Yeah, so if you make changes to that particular charm, your local machine then
Exactly, absolutely. No, it's still trucking away. So it does take a little while to bring up a new container. One thing I really should have set up for this demo, because it is astounding, but I never got around to it yet. My colleague has a ButterFS file system with LXC clone for new containers, and he can get a new running OS image up in seconds at a cost of 7 megs of disk space. Machine. It is amazing, and I really need to set that up next time I'm in front of real people looking expectantly.
So LXC would be a provider like EC2 or...
So, yes, actually, you are right on the money there. It's a, so there is the local provider, is what we call it. That actually works with both LXC and KVM backends. but I'm not going to try and show you the KVM backend because while I'm sure it works, I'm also pretty sure I screwed up the KVM installation pipelines. So it will not be any time. Containerization that the local provider builds on is obviously a interesting story in the cloud as well, because it gives you density with a better granularity than the instance types provided by the people in the cloud, but with isolation as well. We've got active work going on to make these better. The primary stumbling block that happened already is that everything needs an address. So it's nice and easy to have a network on your laptop between half a dozen LXC containers. It gets much more complicated when you're trying to have a flat network between 3 layers of nested containers in 2 different availability zones in EC2. But we're doing it, and it will be done soon. So, I have failed to show that other one. So apart from the fact that I've got a local provider coming soon, I think I'm pretty much at the end there. And if anyone peers over my shoulder later, then they'll see me frantically hammering away at WordPress trying to figure out why I'm it's just coming. But otherwise, any more questions, or I can let you breathe and relax. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Got you going now. I'm sure the first thing he's going to do when he goes home is straight like that. Okay, so thank you very much for coming. I'm just going to literally take another minute of your time to show you what ICE is doing with Linux. Can I use this, please? Okay, so we go here. Oh, I love this keyboard. So this semester, ICE has launched, well, besides a new website, yay, but we've also launched some Linux-related courses, which on this presentation I'm not sure. You're zoomed in.
Sorry, I was missing that.
Oh, no, it's fine. See whether that.
Yeah, the GUI doesn't play quite so nicely with scaling as one might hope.
So yeah, so we have these 2 courses from the Linux Professional Institute.
You are
One.
Okay, 2.
We are. No, but that's not this semester. That's later. See, that's to be announced. Okay. So what we're offering this semester is LPI 1. So for those of you who don't know, the Linux Professional Institute is a certification body. Okay, so for example, if you're doing CCNA, if you're studying Cisco products, who certifies you Cisco? Okay, if you're studying Microsoft Technologies, who certifies you Microsoft? Linux is a bit different because Linux isn't a company, isn't it? So you kind of need to have either one company certifying you or else a kind of global community effort. Now, some of you might have heard of the Red Hat courses, Red Hat Certified Engineer and Systems Administrator. There's even Ubuntu certifications. We're going to have more of those later. I mean, I know for sure we're going to have Red Hat this year, for example. But what we do offer right now, and this is a brand new course, is what we're calling it the Junior Linux level course, but in reality, it's LPI 1, okay, Linux Professional Institute 1. So, of course, what William talked about today was appealing to advanced users, but to people who might not have been so familiar with Linux, you know, it might look a bit overwhelming at first. Okay, so believe me, once you know how Linux works, this is a great time saver, okay? And you really, really appreciate how much configuration and compiling and stuff it's saving. But of course, if you don't know how Linux works in the first place, then this might seem a bit, all right. So this is the idea of the LPI certification, okay? So we'll go through a number of topics, all obviously related to Linux. And the nice thing about it is that it is distribution agnostic. So we don't teach you on any particular version of Linux or flavor of Linux. Okay, so even the students in class, we're going to leave them free to use whatever version of Linux they want. except maybe when it comes to package management, because then, you know, I can't be teaching you equity and blah, blah. So that's the idea. Okay, and if anyone's interested, you know, get in contact with the Institute. Again, thank you for coming. Obviously, we'll have another one similar to this in February. We're going to have these once a month. We still have to decide the topic for that.
I have an idea for that.
Okay, so our chairman has an idea for the topic. But anyway, thank you very much also for registering for the event. If you clicked yes when you were filling in the form, we'll send you an email about, you know, upcoming events and related stuff about Linux from us. So thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much. Oops. All right.
Give them an excuse to get a new one.
I've got my laptop refresh coming up in 18 months.
كيف تتفيل هذه؟